As the bright lights of Hollywood slowly dim, few would imagine that stories thought long buried still carry the weight to captivate the world. Demi Moore, an icon of the 1990s, the woman who mesmerized audiences with Ghost and G.I. Jane, now stands in the dimmed glow of her 62 years, finally opening up about the secrets that were once tightly sealed. A glance, a slow, heavy voice, and she speaks of Ashton Kutcher, the public romance once celebrated, scrutinized, and even weaponized against her image. Hollywood has always been a machine capable of grinding sensitive hearts, turning love into a battlefield, and Demi Moore is a living testament to that truth. As she walks into the interview room, her smile remains radiant, yet her eyes carry the marks of decades of struggle, battles with depression, the pressure of fame, and an unrelenting loneliness that thrives even amid opulent parties. That darkness, once masked by the blinding flash of cameras, now finds voice. At 62, she no longer fears it. She allows herself to feel. She allows herself to speak the truth. Much has been said about Demi Moore, about her blazing youth, her roles that dominated box offices, her marriage to Bruce Willis, and later, Ashton Kutcher, a man 16 years her junior, both ally and nightmare. Yet, the real story has never been fully told. Magazine covers, sensational headlines, all superficial glimmers, while beneath them lies a deep sea of emotions, disappointments, traumas, and sometimes liberation. Demi recalls the first time she met Ashton. His eyes sparkled, wary yet alive, like a young man stepping out of the limelight of his sitcom world. They laughed, they teased, they fell in love under the curious gaze of the world, but few noticed the chasm created by the difference in age and life experience, a gap that even love struggled to bridge. She felt the eyes of the public, the whispers of the press, the things she could not control, but that shaped her decisions and emotions profoundly. It was during those seemingly perfect moments that Demi experienced the fear of losing control over her own life. Every time she spoke of Ashton, she dove deep into memories where love and career, glory and solitude intertwined into a spool of tape that could not be rewound. Rumors, articles, gossip, each became a blade cutting into her trust, forcing her to learn resilience, to stand firm while the world watched and judged. Now, at 62, Demi chooses to tell her story. Not to justify herself, not to cling to the past, but to set herself free. She recounts genuine moments of happiness, yet does not shy away from the pain, the hurt, the lessons learned the hard way. Every word she utters slices through Hollywood's veneer, a sigh of a woman who once fought, faltered, and now seeks to reclaim herself. The story of Ashton Kutcher is not just a story of love, but a mirror reflecting all Demi has endured. Love under public scrutiny, the pressures of fame, and the journey of rediscovering oneself amid the storms of Hollywood life. When she shares intimate moments, arguments, fears, and regrets, listeners finally realize that behind every radiant smile lay layers of suppressed emotion. This is a story of courage, of confronting the past, of a woman at 62 choosing to open her heart, not for pity, but for understanding. In this opening chapter, viewers do not just see Demi Moore as a screen legend. They see a real, complex, strong, and emotional human being. And as she prepares to reveal details about Ashton Kutcher that have never been shared, we understand that Hollywood is not just light and glamour. It is scars, shadows, and moments that only those who lived them can truly comprehend. The first moments of Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher together were electric, like two worlds colliding with both wonder and tension. The age difference was glaring to the public. 16 years, a chasm that Hollywood pundits delighted in exaggerating. But for Demi, it was never about numbers. It was about energy, a connection that defied conventional expectation. Their initial encounters, the casual laughter during charity events, the subtle glances at industry parties, all carried the thrill of a forbidden spark under the scrutinizing eye of the world. At the beginning, there was an undeniable joy. Ashton's youth brought a sense of vitality that contrasted with the weight of Demi's established fame, her years of battle with public perception and personal demons. For a brief moment, Demi allowed herself to feel carefree, almost childlike again, drawn to the spontaneity and unpredictability of Ashton's presence. Yet beneath that playful exterior, she carried a deep-seated fear. She had been here before. Relationships dissected under the media microscope, every misstep exaggerated, every private moment turned into a headline. The media narrative quickly took control, painting a picture that neither fully represented. Headlines screamed about the May-December romance, insinuations of a mismatch, casting doubt on Demi's choices. But in truth, the early days were a mixture of hope and trepidation. Demi remembers late nights where laughter mingled with doubt, moments where Ashton's charm sparked exhilaration, yet reminded her of the fragility of happiness under public scrutiny. The very glamour that had once protected her now became a cage, a gilded prison of perception and expectation. Every public appearance became a calculated performance. Red carpet smiles were practiced, interviews carefully worded, but behind closed doors, the emotional reality was far messier. Demi navigated a minefield of judgment, constantly balancing the desire for love with the fear of vulnerability. Ashton, for all his humor and youthful exuberance, was equally aware of the tension. He admired Demi's strength, but also felt the invisible walls built from years of fame and heartbreak. The early relationship was as much a negotiation between hearts as it was a dance with the public eye. One of the most challenging aspects was trust not between them, but with the world watching. Demi had long learned that fame magnifies weaknesses and twists intimacy into spectacle. Every shared moment, every affectionate glance, was ripe for speculation. She found herself questioning whether love could survive when so many hands reached into it, molding perception, constructing narratives that neither she nor Ashton fully controlled. It was a delicate balancing act, embracing joy while bracing for inevitable scrutiny. Yet, despite the pressure, there were moments of unadulterated connection. Demi recalls quiet nights in Los Angeles, away from cameras and gossip, where they spoke of dreams and fears, of what it meant to navigate life as public figures, and of the vulnerability required to maintain love under constant observation. Those moments were rare and precious, small oases in the desert of public intrusion. They formed the emotional backbone of their early days, providing glimpses of intimacy that few would ever witness. Even amid these private joys, the relationship faced practical challenges. The age gap brought not only social commentary, but different life stages, priorities, and expectations. Demi had a long career behind her, complex experiences, and the scars of past relationships, while Ashton was just beginning to navigate adulthood in the spotlight. Reconciling these worlds required patience, empathy, and resilience. The clash of experiences often manifested in disagreements that were amplified by the media, giving ordinary tensions an outsized narrative. For Demi, these early struggles were both terrifying and illuminating. She had to confront old fears of being judged, of losing control, of being misunderstood. She faced the temptation to retreat, to shield herself from the glare of public scrutiny, yet she chose to stay, to embrace the risk inherent in love. There was courage in vulnerability, a willingness to expose oneself to both joy and pain, knowing that each step forward carried the weight of expectation. Ashton, in turn, had to navigate his own pressures. He admired Demi's legacy, but struggled with the reality of living in the shadow of a woman whose career had defined a generation. He had to grow quickly, learning to manage not only his feelings, but the public narrative surrounding them. The early days were a mutual education, teaching patience, trust, and the importance of creating private space in a world that constantly demanded visibility. The relationship, however, was not immune to missteps, miscommunications, jealousy, and the unavoidable intrusion of gossip often sparked tension. Demi recalls feeling torn between defending their love and protecting her own emotional stability. Every media headline seemed to echo in private moments, amplifying small disagreements into crises. And yet, there was also an undeniable magnetism, a sense that despite all obstacles, the connection was real, tangible, and worth fighting for. In hindsight, Demi describes these early days as a mix of exhilaration and unease, passion and caution. They were a microcosm of the larger story to come. Love entwined with fame, intimacy shadowed by scrutiny, and the constant challenge of preserving personal identity amid the relentless gaze of the public. At 62, speaking with the clarity of perspective, Demi frames these days not just as a romance, but as a formative period, a crucible in which lessons of trust, resilience, and self-preservation were forged. This chapter of her life, filled with laughter, arguments, stolen moments, and relentless external pressures, sets the stage for the complexities that would follow. It is a testament to the fragility and strength of love in Hollywood, a love both deeply human and intensely scrutinized. And as Demi Moore begins to recount the next layers of her story, with Ashton Kutcher, the audience begins to understand what seems simple from the outside: dates, smiles. The magazine covers is often a labyrinth of emotion, challenge, and courage behind the scenes. The early days were just the beginning. They were the spark, the flash that drew attention. And yet, beneath it all, the real story simmered, a story of hope, vulnerability, and the delicate art of navigating love in a world that watches too closely. Demi's voice, calm yet heavy with experience, guides the listener through this landscape, hinting at the trials, the missteps, and the profound moments of understanding that only come with age, reflection, and the courage to speak. As Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher's relationship deepened, the honeymoon period gave way to the harsher realities of life under constant public scrutiny. What had once been private smiles and whispered conversations soon became fodder for tabloids and talk shows, each headline amplifying tensions and magnifying insecurities. Hollywood, with its relentless hunger for spectacle, transformed intimacy into performance. The cameras never slept, and neither did the speculation. Demi, seasoned in the unforgiving glare of fame, had anticipated some of this. She had weathered the storms of past relationships, navigated the pressures of her career, and emerged resilient. Yet, even for someone of her stature, the magnitude of intrusion was staggering. Every action was dissected, every word analyzed, every misstep broadcast, as though it were a moral failing. For Demi, this was not simply an inconvenience. It was an emotional battleground, a testing ground for her patience, her composure, and her sense of self. Ashton, youthful, charismatic, and still learning the subtleties of public life, faced his own challenges. While he brought energy and playfulness to the relationship, he sometimes struggled to navigate the intensity of external judgment. Demi recalls moments where their differences, age, experience, expectations, clashed more violently under the public eye than they ever would in private. Minor disagreements became amplified, magnified by gossip columns and sensationalized narratives, leaving both partners fatigued and emotionally raw. The most difficult trials, however, were not solely external. Demi grappled with her own internal battles, fears of inadequacy, lingering doubts from past heartbreaks, and the haunting awareness that love in Hollywood often comes with a price. She was aware of how easily public opinion could destabilize even the strongest bond, and this constant awareness weighed heavily on her. At times, she questioned whether the love she felt was enough to withstand the scrutiny, or if it would crumble under the combined weight of fame and expectation. One of the most illustrative moments occurred during a public event in Los Angeles. Demi recalls walking the red carpet beside Ashton, lights flashing, questions shouted from the press, every movement captured, every smile interpreted. In that moment, a casual gesture, a hand on the small of her back, a shared glance was dissected and scrutinized by millions. Demi felt both the intimacy and the exposure simultaneously, a paradox that defined much of their relationship. The exhilaration of being seen together, admired, and envied was inseparable from the vulnerability imposed by constant observation. Behind the glitz and glamour, the couple faced private conflicts intensified by public narratives. Miscommunications that might have been trivial in private became sources of anxiety, fueled by speculation and rumor. Demi had to negotiate her own emotional needs while managing the expectations imposed by the press, by fans, and even by Ashton himself. The balance between personal fulfillment and public perception was delicate, precarious, and unrelenting. Demi describes late nights spent in contemplation, lying awake with questions that had no easy answers. Was the love real, or merely a reflection of what others expected her to have? Could she maintain autonomy in a relationship constantly mediated by public opinion? Each doubt, each moment of self-reflection, was a crucible in which her resilience was tested. Yet, in facing these trials, she discovered a deeper understanding of herself, the recognition that vulnerability is not weakness, and that love, when intertwined with fame, requires courage unlike any other. The tension between public and private life manifested in subtle, pervasive ways. Simple arguments about household matters or scheduling became fraught with additional stakes, as if the world were waiting to witness failure. Demi learned to anticipate the scrutiny, to protect moments of intimacy, and to navigate disagreements with an awareness that the fallout would extend far beyond the walls of her home. For Ashton, the challenge was similar. The need to grow emotionally, to reconcile youthful impulsiveness with the responsibilities of partnership under the unyielding gaze of the world. Yet, amid the turbulence, there were fleeting moments of joy and connection, small islands of normalcy that reminded them why they had chosen each other. Late-night conversations, quiet dinners, shared laughter away from the cameras, all became sanctuaries. Demi reflects on these memories with warmth, acknowledging that the strength of the bond was forged not in the absence of conflict, but in the endurance through it. Love, she realized, was as much about surviving adversity together as it was about celebration and romance. Despite these private victories, the external pressures never ceased. Rumors of infidelity, speculation about motivations, and relentless commentary on their age difference created an ongoing cycle of tension and reconciliation. Demi often felt like a performer on a stage without exit, her life a continuous negotiation between authenticity and expectation. At 62, recounting these experiences, she emphasizes that the lessons learned during this period were not about controlling others, but about controlling her own response, her own narrative, and her own peace of mind. Ultimately, Part 3 of Demi's story illustrates the fragile architecture of love under public scrutiny. It is a landscape where joy and fear coexist, where intimacy and exposure are inseparable, and where resilience becomes an essential component of survival. For Demi Moore, this chapter was a masterclass in navigating the intersection of personal desire and external judgment, revealing the intricate emotional choreography required to maintain a relationship in the spotlight. As she reflects on these trials, Demi's voice conveys both vulnerability and strength. The turbulence of early marriage, magnified by fame, taught her lessons that transcend any single relationship. It illuminated the necessity of self-awareness, emotional fortitude, and the ability to forgive not only others, but oneself. In the story of Demi and Ashton, the public sees romance and glamour. Demi herself experienced the shadowed corridors of doubt, fear, and resilience that defined those years. This part of the journey sets the stage for the next chapter. how the pressures of celebrity, the shifting dynamics of love, and the inexorable passage of time would converge, testing the limits of trust, intimacy, and personal identity. It is a reminder that behind every public headline, there exists a labyrinth of private emotion, experience, and courage that only those who live it truly understand. As the years progressed, the initial spark between Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher faced strains that neither youthful exuberance nor established fame could fully contain. The veneer of public admiration began to show fractures, subtle at first, then undeniable. While the world celebrated their glamorous appearances and power couple status, behind closed doors, the relationship grappled with pressures both mundane and extraordinary. The glittering Hollywood stage offered no refuge. The spotlight illuminated imperfections with relentless intensity. One of the most defining moments came during a particularly turbulent period when media speculation about their marriage reached fever pitch. Tabloids thrived on insinuations, climbing rifts where there may have been mere disagreements, amplifying normal marital tension into public crises. Demi recalls reading articles that twisted private conversations into sensationalist narratives. Each headline felt like a challenge, a test of her ability to maintain composure, love, and self-respect simultaneously. It was as if every personal misstep, every subtle display of emotion, had been magnified and reframed for mass consumption. These pressures inevitably strained communication. Demi and Ashton, though deeply connected, began to experience a dissonance between their private intentions and public perception. Small misunderstandings became magnified under scrutiny, and moments of vulnerability could be misinterpreted as weakness. Demi, acutely aware of the stakes, often found herself preemptively moderating her behavior, guarding her expressions, and calibrating her words for potential public misinterpretation. The emotional labor required was exhausting, a constant balancing act that tested even her seasoned resilience. Yet amid the tension, there were instances that revealed the depth of their bond. Demi often speaks of quiet evenings spent in reflection, sharing thoughts without fear of judgment, creating temporary havens where vulnerability could exist free from scrutiny. These moments underscored a crucial truth. Intimacy in the public eye demanded deliberate cultivation, a conscious effort to preserve private connection against the tidal waves of external judgment. The challenges strengthened her understanding that love, especially under public observation, requires not only passion, but patience, discipline, and self-awareness. However, cracks became more pronounced when the realities of life's unpredictability collided with the relentless gaze of the world. Misaligned schedules, conflicting ambitions, and the pressures of parenthood added layers of complexity. Demi describes instances where miscommunication escalated, magnified by the looming shadow of public expectation. Arguments that might have resolved quietly in private escalated under the anticipation of scrutiny, leaving both partners fatigued and emotionally frayed. The relationship became a tightrope walk, suspended between desire and survival, intimacy and exposure. Demi's reflections reveal an evolving understanding of her own vulnerabilities. She acknowledges moments of insecurity, where fear of judgment or loss threatened her composure. Yet in those moments, she also found clarity. The recognition that maintaining authenticity in love requires embracing risk, accepting imperfection, and navigating adversity with grace. Each trial became a lesson, each tension a teacher, guiding her toward a more profound self-awareness. The public, oblivious to the nuanced dynamics, often perceived the relationship through a simplified lens of success and glamour. Yet, Demi's narrative emphasizes the emotional labor hidden behind appearances. The constant assessment of words, the careful curation of behavior, the quiet management of private conflict to prevent it from spilling into public spectacle. It was an intricate dance, requiring empathy, foresight, and emotional stamina. skills honed through decades of navigating fame and personal tribulation. Not all lessons were about endurance. Some were revelations about agency and boundaries. Demi recounts moments when she realized that love does not require surrendering oneself entirely, that maintaining personal integrity is as crucial as nurturing a partnership. She learned that it is possible to love fiercely while asserting limits, to be vulnerable without relinquishing control over one's own narrative. These realizations became pillars of her emotional resilience, shaping not only her approach to this relationship, but her broader perspective on life and love. Amid these challenges, the couple experienced both heartbreak and growth. Demi recalls moments when public criticism threatened to fracture their connection, only to find renewal in mutual understanding and private affirmation. Love, she realized, was not measured by public perception or media applause, but by the capacity to navigate adversity together, to reconcile differences, and to cultivate spaces of trust and honesty despite external chaos. These insights, tempered by lived experience, underscore the paradox of a public romance. The greater the visibility, the greater the necessity for deliberate, conscious care. The intensity of this period also forced Demi to confront broader existential questions. The intersection of personal happiness and public identity, the sacrifices demanded by fame, and the nature of emotional honesty. Each challenge illuminated the complexities of balancing selfhood with partnership, autonomy with intimacy, and privacy with the unavoidable exposure that accompanies celebrity. The lessons were painful, but indispensable, shaping the woman she would become at 62, reflective, candid, and unafraid to confront uncomfortable truths. Part 4 closes with Demi's voice, revealing both vulnerability and wisdom. The cracks in the facade, once sources of fear and tension, are now recognized as essential to understanding the dynamics of love in the spotlight. The public may have witnessed headlines and gossip, but Demi alone understands the emotional architecture behind them, the delicate negotiation of trust, the navigation of insecurity, and the cultivation of intimacy in a world that never sleeps. As we prepare to move into Part 5, the stage is set for the pivotal moments that would define the ultimate trajectory of Demi and Ashton's relationship. The culmination of pressures, the defining conflicts, and the turning points that tested not only their love, but Demi's enduring strength and capacity for self-discovery. These next chapters promise revelations, insights, and the unflinching truth of life lived under the glare of an unrelenting public eye. The years that followed brought both intensity and inevitability. Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher had weathered the trials of public scrutiny, internal discord, and the pressures of juxtaposed life experiences. Yet, even the strongest bonds can reach a breaking point when the weight of expectation, miscommunication, and emotional fatigue becomes too heavy to bear. For Demi, that moment arrived not as a sudden shock, but as a slow, painful crescendo, an accumulation of tensions both external and internal. The public watched in real time, dissecting every hint of discord, every subtle shift in behavior. Rumors swirled, exaggerations abounded, and the narrative of Hollywood's perfect couple began to fray. Demi felt the familiar sting of judgment, but this time, it was deeper, more personal. No red carpet smile, no carefully curated interview could mask the fractures within. Behind closed doors, the laughter and tender glances of earlier years had given way to fatigue, frustration, and a gnawing awareness that love alone could not shield them from the relentless gaze of the world. Separation was not a single event, but a process, marked by conversations, reflections, and moments of quiet resignation. Demi recounts nights of tearful solitude, contemplating not just the end of a relationship, but the unraveling of the identity she had built around love, fame, and self-expectation. She faced the raw, uncomfortable truth that vulnerability, once a source of strength, had also exposed her to profound heartbreak. And yet, even amid the pain, there was clarity, a recognition that ending the relationship was not a failure, but a necessary step toward preserving her own emotional well-being. The initial period after separation was tumultuous. Demi describes a mixture of grief, relief, and self-doubt. The absence of daily intimacy brought both emptiness and unexpected freedom, a paradox that was at once disorienting and liberating. She navigated a landscape of conflicting emotions, learning to confront loss without surrendering her sense of self, to process heartbreak without allowing it to define her entirely. It was a period of profound introspection, where every choice, every reflection, and every memory became a building block for recovery. In recounting this period, Demi emphasizes the role of self-care and personal growth. She turned inward, seeking strength through creative endeavors, friendships, and reflection. Therapy, meditation, and the support of trusted confidants became essential tools in her emotional toolkit. These practices were not mere coping mechanisms. They were acts of reclamation, strategies for reconstructing identity and reclaiming agency after years of navigating love under unrelenting public scrutiny. The healing process was neither linear nor predictable. Demi faced setbacks, moments of doubt, and reminders of vulnerability. Yet each challenge reinforced a central truth. Resilience is forged in the crucible of hardship. She learned to forgive not only Ashton, but herself for the perceived mistakes, misjudgments, and emotional missteps that accompanied the relationship. Forgiveness, she discovered, was less about absolution and more about liberation, the ability to release past pain and move forward unencumbered. Public perception, always a shadow over her personal life, shifted as Demi began to embrace transparency and honesty. Speaking candidly about the end of the relationship, about her experiences and emotional journey, became a form of empowerment. She reframed the narrative on her own terms, reclaiming voice and agency in a story that had too long been told by others. In doing so, she not only healed, but also inspired others to confront their own challenges with courage and clarity. Demi's reflections also illuminate the intersection of love, fame, and personal identity. The dissolution of the relationship revealed the ways in which public life complicates intimacy, how visibility can magnify both joy and pain. It underscored the importance of boundaries, self-awareness, and the capacity to navigate external pressures without compromising internal integrity. These lessons, hard-won through experience, shaped the woman. She became a woman who could love fiercely, endure heartbreak, and emerge with strength and wisdom intact. Even amid the pain, there were moments of revelation and gratitude. Demi recalls the ways in which the relationship with Ashton, despite its challenges and ultimate conclusion, offered lessons in empathy, patience, and emotional depth. She recognized that the love they shared, however imperfect, had contributed to her personal evolution, teaching resilience, reflection, and the nuanced art of navigating human connection in an unforgiving environment. The aftermath of separation was, in many ways, a rebirth. Demi embraced solitude not as emptiness, but as opportunity, a space to reconstruct identity, pursue creative passions, and cultivate relationships grounded in authenticity rather than performance. She learned to trust her own judgment, to honor her own needs, and to move forward with the awareness that her value was not defined by public perception or romantic attachment. Ultimately, Part 5 represents the transformative power of adversity. Demi Moore's journey through separation from Ashton Kutcher exemplifies the interplay of vulnerability, resilience, and self-discovery. The narrative is not simply one of heartbreak. It is a testament to the human capacity to endure, reflect, and emerge stronger. For viewers, this chapter reveals the complexities behind celebrity romance, the unseen emotional labor, the negotiation of personal and public identities, and the courage required to claim one's own narrative. As this chapter closes, Demi's voice carries both sorrow and strength, a reflection of a life lived fully in love and loss. The lessons she draws about vulnerability, forgiveness, and self-empowerment resonate far beyond the specifics of her relationship, offering insight into the universal human experience of navigating intimacy, adversity, and personal growth. In the years following her separation from Ashton Kutcher, Demi Moore embarked on a journey of profound reflection, a path that demanded both courage and honesty. The glare of public scrutiny, once a source of tension and pain, became a backdrop against which she could reassess, reconcile, and reclaim her story. At 62, speaking with the clarity of experience, she began to understand that the narrative of her life was hers to shape, no longer dictated by headlines, gossip, or the expectations of others. Demi reflects candidly on the lessons learned from her marriage and its eventual end. She acknowledges the mistakes, miscommunications, and moments of fear that shaped the trajectory of her relationship, but she also recognizes the resilience, joy, and growth that accompanied them. Each memory, whether tender or painful, became a teacher, illuminating facets of love, trust, and self-awareness that she had yet to fully appreciate in the moment. It was a delicate balance, embracing vulnerability without succumbing to regret, honoring the past while moving towards self-empowerment. Public revelation played a significant role in this process. Demi's decision to speak openly about her experiences about love, heartbreak, and the complexities of her relationship with Ashton was not a pursuit of sympathy or vindication. It was a deliberate act of ownership. By articulating her truth, she reclaimed agency over a narrative that had long been interpreted, distorted, or sensationalized by others. This transparency, though initially daunting, became a powerful form of healing. It allowed her to contextualize her experiences, articulate her emotional truths, and share the insights she had gleaned with a world eager for stories of human resilience. In her reflections, Demi frequently returns to the notion of perspective. Time, she realizes, is a lens that reframes events, softens regrets, and highlights growth. The turbulence of her relationship with Ashton, viewed through the immediacy of youth and media pressure, once seemed overwhelming. Now, with years of distance and introspection, she sees the interplay of love, fear, and personal evolution with striking clarity. The challenges, rather than mere obstacles, are recognized as catalysts, moments that demanded courage, patience, and profound emotional engagement. Demi also emphasizes the importance of self-compassion in this stage of her life. The intense scrutiny, the relentless commentary, and the pressures of fame had often fueled self-criticism, amplifying insecurities and fostering doubt. Through reflection and therapeutic practices, she cultivated a gentler relationship with herself, acknowledging imperfections, honoring her efforts, and understanding that resilience is not the absence of pain, but the capacity to endure, learn, and grow in spite of it. Another central theme of this period is forgiveness. Demi speaks of forgiving not only Ashton, but herself, for the perceived missteps, for moments of impatience, and for choices made under pressure. Forgiveness is framed not as absolution in a moral sense, but as liberation, a conscious decision to release the emotional weight of past grievances, allowing space for peace, clarity, and renewed strength. This process of reconciliation with the past is ongoing, a testament to the complexity of human emotion and the enduring power of self-reflection. The public dimension of her reflections also carries significance. Demi recognizes the responsibility of her voice in shaping understanding, empathy, and insight. By sharing her story candidly, she challenges the oversimplified narratives often imposed on women in Hollywood, particularly regarding age, relationships, and personal autonomy. Her revelations illuminate the realities behind public perceptions, offering a nuanced portrait of love, loss, and resilience that transcends celebrity gossip. Through this journey, Demi has cultivated a renewed sense of identity, one rooted in experience, authenticity, and self-determination. She speaks of embracing her past, not as a burden, but as a foundation for continued growth. The trials of love, the scrutiny of fame, and the emotional turbulence of her relationship with Ashton are now understood as integral threads in the tapestry of her life, threads that contribute to a richer, more resilient self. Part of this reconciliation involves acknowledging the complexity of human relationships. Demi reflects on the interplay between affection, misunderstanding, expectation, and circumstance. She recognizes that love, even when imperfect or fleeting, offers lessons that endure far beyond the immediate experience. The process of articulating these lessons publicly serves not only as personal catharsis, but as a beacon for others navigating the treacherous intersection of intimacy, vulnerability, and external pressure. As the narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that Demi's story is not defined solely by her relationship with Ashton Kutcher, but by her capacity to learn, adapt, and grow from it. The challenges she faced, heartbreak, misinterpretation, and emotional strain are reframed as opportunities for insight, empathy, and empowerment. By owning her narrative, she transforms pain into wisdom, scrutiny into perspective, and loss into resilience. Ultimately, Part 6 captures the essence of Demi Moore's journey at 62, a woman who has navigated love and fame, heartbreak, and self-discovery, and emerged with clarity, strength, and the courage to speak her truth. It is a testament to the enduring power of reflection, the necessity of forgiveness, and the transformative potential of embracing one's past. Through this lens, her story resonates far beyond the specifics of celebrity life, offering universal insights into the human capacity for resilience, growth, and self-realization. As Demi Moore reflects on a life marked by both immense public scrutiny and personal triumph, she now occupies a space of quiet authority, a vantage point from which the lessons of decades coalesce into clarity. At 62, she is no longer defined solely by her roles on screen, the headlines of tabloid journalism, or the public arc of her romantic relationships. She is defined by the resilience, insight, and self-empowerment forged in the crucible of experience. Her relationship with Ashton Kutcher, once a focal point of fascination and speculation, now serves as a prism through which she examines growth, boundaries, and the nature of love itself. The trials they endured, the scrutiny they faced, and the eventual separation were not mere episodes of heartbreak. They were catalysts, shaping a woman who understands both the fragility and the power of human connection. Demi describes these years not with bitterness, but with gratitude, acknowledging the ways in which challenge and disappointment have honed her perspective and deepened her empathy. Demi's reflections illuminate a central truth. Legacy is not built solely on achievement or acclaim, but on the integrity with which one navigates life's complexities. She has witnessed the intoxicating glow of fame and the shadowed toll it exacts on intimacy, identity, and emotional well-being. From this vantage, she emphasizes the importance of authenticity, courage, and self-determination. In sharing her story, both the triumphs and the tribulations, she contributes to a narrative that transcends celebrity, offering lessons in resilience and agency that resonate universally. Public empowerment emerges as a natural extension of her personal journey. Demi actively seeks to reclaim not only her own narrative, but also the broader cultural discourse surrounding women, aging, and autonomy. By speaking candidly about love, heartbreak, and self-discovery, she challenges stereotypes, dismantles simplistic narratives, and asserts a form of visibility that is neither performative nor reactive. Her voice, calm yet potent, conveys authority born of lived experience, offering both inspiration and a model for self-advocacy. The legacy Demi constructs is multifaceted. It encompasses the professional achievements that cemented her status as a cinematic icon. Yet, it extends far beyond accolades and box office success. It includes the wisdom gained through navigating complex personal relationships, the lessons learned in resilience, and the insights gleaned from confronting the pressures of public life. Her story demonstrates that true legacy is measured not merely in recognition, but in the capacity to endure, to reflect, and to emerge with understanding and grace. Central to this chapter of her life is the reconciliation with the past. Demi describes a profound acceptance of her experiences with Ashton Kutcher and others, recognizing that every moment, joyful, painful, or challenging, has contributed to her evolution. This reconciliation is neither passive nor simplistic. It is an active, conscious process of integrating lessons, acknowledging growth, and embracing the wisdom that arises from lived experience. It is a testament to emotional maturity, self-awareness, and the transformative power of reflection. Demi also addresses the theme of agency, emphasizing that empowerment is rooted in the ability to define one's own life and narrative. Her experiences have shown that while external pressures, media scrutiny, societal expectations, and public opinion are unavoidable, the manner in which one responds to these pressures is a choice. Through self-reflection, boundary setting, and the cultivation of inner strength, she demonstrates that it is possible to navigate external chaos while preserving personal integrity and emotional autonomy. Her reflections are intertwined with gratitude for growth, for the people who supported her, and for the lessons learned through adversity. Demi acknowledges that the trials of her relationships, the complexities of love, and the weight of fame have all contributed to the woman she has become, a figure of resilience, insight, and unapologetic self-expression. This perspective allows her to approach life with a sense of clarity and purpose, informed by the wisdom of experience and the humility of reflection. Ultimately, Part 7 encapsulates Demi Moore's journey from youthful ambition through the intensity of love and public scrutiny to a stage of empowerment and self-realization. It is a narrative of endurance, introspection, and transformation, a testament to the human capacity for growth, reflection, and self-definition. The lessons she imparts are universal. Embrace vulnerability, cultivate resilience, maintain integrity, and claim ownership of one's narrative, regardless of external pressures. In concluding her reflections, Demi projects a message of hope and strength. Her story demonstrates that heartbreak can be transformative, scrutiny can cultivate resilience, and challenges, whether personal or professional, can serve as catalysts for growth. She has emerged as a woman who understands both the complexity of love and the necessity of self-empowerment, who honors the past while fully inhabiting the present, and who offers insight into the ways in which adversity, reflection, and courage coalesce to shape a meaningful legacy. Demi Moore, at 62, stands not only as a cinematic legend, but as a symbol of endurance, wisdom, and empowerment. Her voice carries the authority of experience, the empathy of someone who has loved and lost deeply, and the clarity of a woman who has reclaimed her narrative. In sharing her story, she transforms private struggle into public insight, personal growth into collective inspiration, and reflection into legacy. The audience is left not merely with knowledge of her life, but with an understanding of the principles that have guided her through love, loss, and self-discovery. Courage, reflection, resilience, and the unwavering pursuit of authenticity. In the end, Demi Moore's journey is a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure, to learn, and to rise. Her story with Ashton Kutcher, once the subject of headlines and speculation, has evolved into a narrative of empowerment, reflection, and legacy, an enduring reminder that life's trials, when faced with courage and introspection, can yield wisdom, growth, and profound personal transformation.